We've had a response as well to some of those criticisms of Tony Abbott via his sister Christine Forster. In a statement to Sky News, she says it is nothing short of dishonesty for politicians who do not know Tony to label him a homophobe and a misogynist for the purposes of scoring cheap political points. As a woman who has always been part of his life and who came out to him as gay in my early 40s, I know incontrovertibly that Tony is neither of those things. In reality, he is a man of great conviction and intellect, an unabashed conservative, but with great compassion, respect for others, and an indelible sense of doing what is right. Tony would be an outstanding trade envoy for the UK. Joining me live for more on this now is one of Tony Abbott's former colleagues and former Speaker of the House, Bronwyn Bishop. Thanks very much for your time today, Bronwyn Bishop. What's your response, first of all, to this criticism of Tony Abbott?
I think it's disgusting. The man is neither of the things that is being described. And indeed, most of this seems to stem back to Julia Gillard's so-called misogyny speech. And if I've got one regret, it is that I didn't call a point of order on her when she was making that speech, because it was clearly out of order. But the point is that Tony Abbott has a fine track record with regard to trade, and he has a good record as a father of 3 girls who has had chiefs of staff who've been female, who I have known for over 3 decades and have never, ever seen him have any of those traits of being misogyny. So it is just a disgraceful character assassination, trying to destroy someone by people who are clearly political opponents. And unfortunately, when you have firm opinions and you have socialists who are criticising you, they will stoop that low.
That's interesting what you say about Julia Gillard's speech. So what would you have called a point of order on it, and when would you have stopped her giving that speech?
I would have called a point of order on her because it was a discussion on a motion that was dealing with the then Speaker of the House, Peter Slipper. It had nothing to do with the Prime Minister at all, and it was clearly a prepared speech and was quite out of order in the context of where that debate took place. You know, Julia Gillard's a very interesting person, isn't she? Yes, she is our first female Prime Minister, but she has never been elected. She knifed the former leader in the back, and then she went to an election. She was not elected. She stitched up a deal with 2 independents. Then she was removed herself. So we are still to elect our first female Prime Minister. And I think that to hark back to that speech and give it a credibility it doesn't deserve, and to use it to politically try and character assassinate Tony Abbott is truly disgusting.
I'll get back to Tony Abbott in a moment, but I'm just interested by that as well. So you think there'll be a greater honour for the first woman who's elected in a majority
as
Prime Minister than the one that Julia Gillard got?
Yes, indeed. Much more important.
Let's go to Tony Abbott then. Perhaps does Christine Forster have a point? In her statement, she spoke about the comments not being fair, and for people that know Tony, the quotes being put out about Tony Abbott to try to make the point about him being so-called sexist and misogynistic and also a homophobe. One of the comments he made about probably feeling a bit threatened by gay people, also not saying but asking the question, what if men are by physiology or temperament more adapted to exercise authority? Is it understandable how people would read these, not know Tony Abbott, and form a view that he does have some old-fashioned opinions?
The only view that they've formed is one that they can try and see a political advantage. They are political opponents, and that's what it is, a political attack which has no substance at all. And I know Tony's sister obviously very well also, and he has always been totally supportive of her in the way she has been, first of all, a wife in a heterosexual relationship, and then as she came out and formed another relationship, he's been nothing but supportive of her.
And indeed, that's what she said. But I'm just asking if some of his comments, and he had a long time in public life, even comments that he made in 1979 have been plucked out for a while. So I get some of this is from a long time ago, but that's how people, if they're from overseas, if they don't know Tony Abbott, they might read some of these and think he's quite old-fashioned.
I'm sorry, but the allegations they're making about him have got nothing to do with being old-fashioned. He is a man of conviction. He's quite forthright in saying what he believes in, whereas other people choose to dissemble, don't they? And I would defy anyone to go through their life and find a statement that they've thought they may not have expressed differently, but that's not what he's being attacked for. He's being attacked by political opponents, unfortunately many of them socialists, who see in him someone that they can destroy and embarrass the British government. I trust the British government will stick by its well-founded decision to appoint Tony Abbott, because in trade issues he has an outstanding record with the free trade agreements that were negotiated while he was Prime Minister. And of course he supported Brexit, which many of the people who are, criticising him did not. And in fact, he is best placed, perhaps, of all people, to negotiate an excellent free trade agreement between Britain and Australia, which we certainly need as we pivot away from China.
So but when you said you challenge someone in their life to, not have had comments they regret, that seems a fair point. But do you think there would be some of these lines Tony Abbott had over the years, which he would think now he could have expressed differently?
I have no idea. You'd have to ask him that. But the point I'm making is that they are taking comments quite out of context. They are trying to line it up with the misogyny speech, which all socialists seem to think was wonderful, and which I said I do wish I'd pulled that point of order on, because it was totally out of order. It was clearly a rehearsed speech which he was desperate to make somewhere. But I repeat again, it's important to know that speech was really about saying, look, I'm a woman, treat me differently, as you would any other Prime Minister. I mean, you seriously have to understand that when you are in politics, the slings and arrows come towards you no matter what sex you are. And we have a wonderful system in Australia where we are free to be able to stand for office and to serve. And Tony loves his country as I love my country. And I think we should be proud that someone is going to have the opportunity to serve in a different capacity, which can still benefit this country.
Why do you think that the speech you mentioned at the time appeared to reverberate around Australia so much and did strike a note with a lot of people?
Because it got a clear run, unfortunately. It was not challenged, and it should have been.
But there has to, just a speech getting a clear run doesn't in of itself guarantee it will be something that resonates with people. Not often do political speeches get that sort of attention.
Oh, I don't know. There are plenty of speeches that get reasonable attention around the world made by people. But the point is, if it had been interrupted as it should have been, it would have not had the clear run that it had.
But I'm not talking about the interruption, but the content itself. I mean, this had a much bigger impact, was certainly something that many more people in Australia were aware of compared to most political speeches. Why do you think that is?
Well, to start with, it was just full of lies. It started out by calling him a misogynist, which he clearly is not. I've got very fond memories. I've known Tony, as I said, for more than 30 years, and I have very fond memories of being with he and Margie, watching the kids play sport down on the playing fields, which were in the area where our two electorates abutted. And he was a very caring father for those girls. And to say that he is misogynist is just outright wrong. You know, he gets criticised for being an effective firefighter. The fact of the matter is, he's effective and knowledgeable in fighting fires. It's not something he dresses up like some others I could name and pretend that they're active in this public service. He does it because he really believes it's his duty to serve his community. And those are the things that are important. And I really am fed up to the teeth with people who use disgusting character assassinations by simply relying on someone who was who herself had knifed a leader to get the position, was not elected by the people, and was then done away with in another overturning of leadership by the Labor Party because they knew she couldn't win, and simply because she said things does not make them true.
Whatever people or you make of Julia Gillard and her political career, was some of the rhetoric against her, and I'm not talking just about Tony Abbott. Obviously, he stood next to one particularly controversial banner during the carbon tax debate, but was some of that unhelpful and unfortunate?
Tom, I'm very pleased you raised that one. It was done to Margaret Thatcher as well. Where was the callback? And when I was duly elected by the House to become Speaker of the House, the then leader of opposition business, Tony Burke, made a reference to me as a witch and a Tony in the Potter books. I find it quite hypocritical. You know, when I was in the Senate, the then leader of the government in the Senate, Gareth Evans, said he would cross the floor and garrote me. Where was the outcry? Where was the assault charges? The fact of the matter is that it's a robust life when you choose politics. And
So you didn't want condemnation of those comments towards you. You just say everybody needs to be a bit tougher. Is that what you're saying?
I answered them myself. I answered them myself. I entered Parliament because I wished to serve the people of Australia. I wished to show in the many firsts that I was able to achieve as a woman that I want other women to follow, that it is an area where you can serve as a woman and serve strongly. And you don't need affirmative action, and you don't need to say change the rules. You simply need to have a set of principles by which you live and you believe in. For me, that's free enterprise and the philosophy of individualism, which I will support from now till kingdom come. Now, the important thing is that Julia Gillard was a member of socialist groups. We were political opponents. And when you are a political opponent, you have to be able to defend yourself on the basis of what policy issues are and what is at stake for the nation, not by trying to character assassinate somebody by calling them a misogynist. And I used to hear that stuff all around during the campaign in 2013. And the fact of the matter is that I defended him then and I'll defend him now.
Former Speaker of the House, Bronwyn Bishop, appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.